Is Elizabeth Warren more of a liar than Bernie Sanders is a pussy? We'll get to that in a little bit. My name's Fingers Malloy, along with Tracy L. Connors. This is the Enough Already podcast. Thanks for finding us on Apple Podcasts, or where all good podcasts are sold, or on BitChute or YouTube. Before we get into that, Tracy, I don't understand. I've been on the Google a lot. So I open up the Google app.
Uh-huh.
Have you been noticing a trend lately where apparently this is like a thing where they have to have news stories on every local network affiliate about some waitress or waiter that gets a huge tip?
I don't know. I don't go on the Googles.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. You go to what? DuckDuckGo?
DuckDuckGo.
Oh. Yeah. Well, this seems to be a thing the last few weeks. I feel like every other day there's a news story out about, here right now, Oak Lawn waitress receives $2,020 tip. It's like, what? Why is this news?
$20? Oh, it's 2020?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't understand why this is news.
Well, it's kind of a nice story.
We don't want nice stories.
I like nice stories. I think that's really sweet that people are giving away big tips. I mean, it's better than folks' bullshit stories where people were saying, oh, look at this racist thing that somebody wrote on the receipt and they didn't tip me at all.
Are you getting soft on me?
No, I'm really enthusiastic about what I'm calling the Soaring 20s instead of the Roaring 20s, because why do we need to repeat those? Because if you'll recall, that was the decade of Prohibition, which January 17th was the 100th anniversary of the end of Prohibition. Just for you playing along at home. But I was thinking about it, and so far in 2020, I think that the hoaxsters' time is up. And my evidence to this is that Jussie Smollett is about to get his ass handed to him. Because the most recent thing I read about his case is that the judge has asked Google to turn over all the things that they have. So that would be all of his location data, all of his texts, all of everything. So he's...
But will they do it?
Nailed. I don't know.
I mean, Google is big enough where they could just say fuck off to pretty much everybody and get away with it.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up and find that out. That the fact that CNN settled with Nick Sandmann of the famous Covington Kids for an undisclosed amount of money. That freak show up in Canada that I believe goes by the name Jessica, but is actually a dude. Do you remember that story? Trying to get a bikini wax.
Well, did you see this week? And we didn't talk about this in show prep. I don't know much about Jess, but did you see where Jess went? I'm just going to call Jessica Jess.
Why don't we
for some reason?
Mess. It's a male Jess.
Okay, so Mess apparently went smash on.
Well, smash, yeah.
Mess went smash on a reporter this week. Did you see that?
Yep. This is what I'm talking about. It's all falling apart.
But is it? Because will there be any consequences for Mess for going smash on a journalist? Or will Jussie Smollett will there be any consequences? I keep hearing about, you got Omar, Representative Omar's being investigated. And it's like, okay, this is really great that the spotlight is on these people for maybe doing something wrong, but then nothing ever happens.
Well, that's not true. CNN just took it pretty hard. And they're only one of the parties named in that suit. So we could see others fall, and that's kind of set a precedent at this point. And I think you're dealing with a Kentucky jury who's none too sympathetic to the New York liberal media types trashing their homegrown boys. It's just like what happened with Hulk Hogan kicking Gawker's ass. And the reason that went down that way is because they got to have the trial in Florida. So it was a bunch of old Florida people, and here comes the Gawker people thinking, oh, yeah, we'll just go in there with our snotty New York attitudes and tell it like it is. And the jury didn't take too kindly to that. And what was the settlement, $150 million or something?
Something like that, yeah.
So, and maybe it'll come to me, but I feel like I had a couple other things that I was like, oh, my God, the hoaxsters are paying up. This is really turning around this year. This is what's going on. This is pretty amazing.
But the whole mess thing up in Canada about the bikini. Let's get past the bikini wax thing and just focus on mess going smash on the journalist. If you haven't seen it, folks, you have to get on the Twitters and Googles or DuckDuckGoes and look it up. Mess is walking out of I don't know if Mess is walking out of the courtroom or a Golden Corral. I don't know, but there was a journalist waiting outside, and Mess went off and started getting all punchy and shovey. Where if I had done that walking out of a building, if I just call a journalist a liberal hack, people will go crazy. But this person just started punching and shoving, and as far as I know, as of Saturday, January 28th, that's when we're recording this podcast, I don't think she's in jail.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't followed up on it. I do know
the journalist had it coming, Tracy.
Right. But I saw somewhere else somebody's going after Mess for defamation, and I was able to I found the video, so anybody that's watching can see it too.
Will you be pleading guilty? What? Go. No, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Hey! Stop!
Go away from me! Go away!
Fucking hell!
Go away from me!
Jesus, get away from me!
Go away
fucking
from me!
Crazy fucking
Get
thing!
away from me! Get away! Get the fuck away from me!
Stay away from me!
Get away from me now! Right now! You heard me?
I'm calling the police on you.
I don't give a shit. Get away from me!
You stay away from me. I'm back. Will you
Such
be pleading
ladylike
guilty?
behavior there.
No.
It reminds me of the famous video of the other transgender man, woman, whatever. I never know how that works. Going into GameStop.
Oh, in New York?
Yes. Ma'am. But what a beast.
And won't get arrested.
No, and that's a journalist for Rebel Media, who's there covering the trial.
And I did see people. Oh, it's Rebel Media.
So what? Does that mean you're allowed to punch him in the head?
Yes, because it's Rebel Media. Evil Rebel Media up in Canada.
Of course.
But
at Ezra Levant, he's a dangerous guy.
So, I mean, we'll see if there are any consequences to any of this, but that's the way it feels, as though if you're a leftist, you can get away with that crap. You can lie to Congress and get away with it.
So the reporter in question's name is Kean, I guess. It's Keean, Bext. Oh. And he's saying there's a headline in there. The person's last name is Yaniv. So he says, Yaniv update, criminal investigation confirmed, assault charges expected, civil action being filed.
Good.
Yeah. And I don't really understand how you can argue with this. And as he points out in the tweet where he shared that video, they're right outside a courthouse. So there's cameras everywhere. So not only is it on his camera, but there are multiple views of this. So he says, I'm currently cooperating with an ongoing RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, investigation into the assault, and charges are expected to be recommended by the police to Crown prosecutors.
Well, do you have that video? Can you replay that?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I don't know if these two have a history, but it sounded at the beginning of the video like he was just asking a reasonable question.
Yeah. He's asking for an update. And how did you think it went? So here we go.
Will you be pleading guilty? What?
Go.
No,
Go.
don't touch me. Don't touch me. Hey! Stop!
Go away from me. Go away.
Fucking hell.
Go away from me.
Jesus, get away from me.
Go away
you
from
fucking
me.
crazy fucking
Get
thing.
away from me. Get away. Get the fuck away from me.
Stay away from me.
Get away from me. Now. Right now. You heard me?
I'm calling the police on you.
I don't give a shit. Get away from me.
You stay away from me. I'm back. You need police.
Good Lord.
Did he call her a crazy fucking thing?
Yeah. Well, what else are you supposed
boy.
to do? When that is coming after you. Angry. She could have been hangry, which just ups the game a bit. I haven't eaten in 3 hours. I'm sitting in the courtroom.
That would have been funny if he pulled out a Snickers and handed it to her.
It should be a Snickers commercial.
Better?
Right. But it makes you wonder, though, is he going to get in trouble for calling that person a crazy fucking thing? Could Mess turn
I'm
around
sure.
to the Canadian Human Rights Council or whatever they call that up there and say, you know, I was transgressed against as a trans person? But
Well, that's what's going to happen when it goes to
on there.
when it goes to a civil trial.
Yeah. Ugh.
I could totally see that coming up, but Mess hit him before he called Mess a thing. So
I don't know. Could be a hate crime. Who understands their ridiculous laws up there?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of on mic and on camera incidents, we have to get to the Liz versus Bernie incident after the Democratic debate, which I'm told more people watched than the last debate, which is impressive.
Yes.
Did you watch it?
No. I decided that I didn't want to be bored on a Tuesday night. I thought I can catch up with all the clips. And so I looked around for, highlights. The longest highlight clip I found was 4 minutes. Like, oh, wow. This debate went on for how many hours? And the only highlights are this exchange between Bernie and Warren. And just like, this is what you got out of 2.5 hours or however long that shit show was.
Now, to paraphrase the comments that Bernie allegedly made, it was something to the effect of, a woman will never be elected president.
Well, I've
Right?
got the original article that kicked this whole feud. And mind you, CNN is hosting the debate. Mm-hmm. And CNN is where this story pops up. So came out on Monday. The debate's Tuesday night. So the headline is, Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren in a private 2018 meeting that a woman can't win. Sources.
Wait a minute. What? There's no allegedly in there? They're covering it by... It's authoritative, that headline. Okay, he said it. And then they try to backtrack a little bit at the end by saying, sources say.
Well,
There's no allegedly?
No, there's no allegedly. And here's the deal. It was the two of them had dinner. Just the two of them.
Oh, that's a fun table.
I know. That's what I was thinking reading this and thinking about this story all week is like, what is that conversation really like? What do they eat? How sloppy is he when he eats? There's something about him that he's always frumpy looking. So I've been thinking.
Yeah, and you know darn well they're arguing who's not going to pick up the check.
No, it was at her apartment.
Oh.
Yeah. So she's not afraid to have Bernie over in private at her apartment.
Oh, wow.
I think he walked in and she's like, I'm going to have me a beer. So listen to this. The stakes were high when Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren met at Warren's apartment in D.C. one evening in December of 2018. The longtime friends knew that they could soon be running against each other for president. The two agreed that if they ultimately faced each other as presidential candidates, they should remain civil and avoid attacking one another so as not to hurt the progressive movement. They also discussed how to best take on President Donald Trump. And Warren laid out 2 main reasons she believed she would be a strong candidate. She could make a robust argument about the economy and earn broad support from female voters. Sanders responded that he did not believe a woman could win. Now, here comes the sources. The description of that meeting is based on accounts of 4 people. 2 people who Warren spoke with directly soon after the encounter. And I'm not misspeaking, that's literally what it says, directly soon. And 2 people familiar with the meeting. So let's just recap. So it's just the 2 of them having dinner. And yet that gets sourced by 4 people. None of them are her. Supposedly. I suppose she could be one of the people that are, quote, familiar with the meeting. But then, so this drops on Monday. There's some fallout from it. You know, he's denying that he said it. She keeps quiet for hours, so it makes its way all around the internet. People are upset about this. And I could think, who the hell cares? Honestly, like, if he said that, who cares? What difference does it make? Oh, my God, how offensive. I could never vote for a man who doesn't think a woman could be president. Seriously. But this is how they think on the left. You saw that on Twitter. Like, oh, this is so typical, them and the Bernie bros. And
listen, they forced all the people of color off the stage.
Well, they didn't do that. That's another thing I've been thinking about. That's the the people that are answering pollsters and the people who are giving to campaigns. So the Democrat base are racists.
Well, yes, they are. I mean, like I said, the people of color were forced all off the stage, and now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a gender war. And you know, we got to have this fight. But so we have a dinner whistleblower, essentially saying that Bernie Sanders said this. So here's what I find really amusing about this, and clearly, whoever made the decision that Elizabeth Warren should confront Bernie Sanders about this after the debate really either didn't think this through, or the candidate just did it on her own, which isn't a good idea either. Because here you have, when did the debate happen? Tuesday?
Correct.
It's Saturday. And the subject of Elizabeth Warren's truthfulness comes up once again, and it isn't going away. And also Bernie Sanders being the biggest wuss of a revolutionary that's ever claimed to be a revolutionary that we've ever seen. That's a topic of conversation because look at how he handled it. He ran away. He was trying to be the adult in the room, but again, you had a situation where Bernie is... First of all, Bernie gets screwed over by CNN here, which... why he continues to go on CNN, or when he's on CNN doesn't blast them, continues to boggle the mind. But he seems so weak. He looked weak that night. Again. Mm-hmm. And that's the narrative coming out of that debate. You had an hour and a half, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever, however long that was. And the only takeaway from that debate, for the most part, the national conversation was directed towards that incident after the debate. And that's not good for either candidate.
No, it's really good for Biden, and it's really good for Buttigieg. And I suppose it's good for Amy Klobuchar. I don't know how she's still there.
How is she still there?
I have no clue. I don't know who's bankrolling her, but... she's about to be done because she's going to have to sit her ass in the Senate for the next couple of weeks. So Iowa's out.
I'd like to point out that Cory Booker backed out right after I predicted Cory Booker would back out. Thanks.
I know. And right after I said nobody else is going to back out. But I had forgotten that the one kink in that whole thing is this Senate trial. So he'd be running around in Iowa trying to scare up some votes before the caucuses on the 2nd. But can we get back to this, the original leaking of this story and how, these two sources that she told directly soon after the dinner. So picture this, Fingers. The two of them have dinner. She leaves. Does she pick up the phone and start calling people and being like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Bernie Sanders said a woman can't be president. The gall of this man. Like, why wouldn't she just have it out with him if he really said this? And I don't believe that he said it. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever that he would say such a thing. But why not just call him out to his face? You're telling me in this instance then that you're weak. If that was so offensive to you, should have gotten up and walked the hell out of there and then told everybody, because apparently this is a big deal to the leftists. They're very concerned that he might say that. And there are a lot of them that believe her for God knows what reason. Like, this woman, what did Scott Adams called her the other day on his Periscope? Pinocchio Hontus. That's who she is. She's a credibility problem. She's lied about her heritage, and she lied about losing her job because she was pregnant. She said her dad was a janitor to some reporters, and that her brother had to correct the record. And like, no, my dad was never a janitor. Like, there's all these articles flying around from the Bernie side that are saying, hey, she has a problem with the truth. But then back to your point. So Bernie walks onto CNN stage again. CNN cues this up. Okay, this is the story that we published earlier, last night. And then we've just hyped it all day long going into this debate. So you knew it was coming. What did you say that to her? And he makes this, big, I did not say that to her, blah, 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 blah. Of course, there's video of me circulating on the internet today where I'm saying 30 years ago, a woman could be president. Like, this is ludicrous. And then the moderator just turns right to her and says, so what did you think when Sanders told you the thing that he just said he never told you?
Buried him.
And he didn't jump in there and say, hold on, what the hell? Are you people insane? Did you not just listen to what I said? I said I didn't say it. Well, we're just going to pretend like that never happened and you're going to carry on so we can continue this ridiculous fight?
Again, he should have broke in.
Mm-hmm.
He should have grown a pair and said, no, I'm not going to continue to let your network screw me over. And he doesn't do it. He just bends over and says, thank you, sir. May I have another?
But
what's Trump going to do to this man?
I bet you they raise a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to win. I'm convinced he doesn't want to win.
You may very well be right. I just don't understand how you can continue to let a network bone you like that and not call them out. I mean, that first town hall he did, he should have set that place on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Didn't do it. Didn't do it.
No, they've learned nothing from Trump's handling of the media. And he has a good case to make that they're unfair to him. It's obvious. So CNN now, what were the trending topics on Twitter after CNN is trash, and then that got kind of killed. So it was then CNN is garbage. I mean, it's just unreal to me. I don't think that he wants to win. I really don't. I don't think he's serious about this. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it over the whole week. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me that why he didn't run as an independent. He had a huge following after 2016. He could have started building momentum going into 2020 as an independent back then. He could have picked one of the existing third parties or started his own. And those people are so devoted to him. And not only are they devoted to him, but they're also incredibly active on all the social media platforms. So they amplify his message all over the place. So that's enough, I think, to give the Democrat Party a serious run for its money, especially when you have a lot of people that already think it's a totally corrupt organization and they're going to push Joe Biden over the finish line at this point.
Well, but here's the problem with that. It would pretty much make Trump a shoo-in for re-election. Because if he ran as an independent, he's not going to be peeling Trump voters away.
No. So it depends. I think there's some people that could go that way.
Okay, I agree with you that there is an establishment movement. There were a lot of Bernie people that were so upset with what happened to Bernie, how he was treated by the DNC, that they did vote for Trump. I don't think that would happen again if 2016 or if 2020 rolls around and he's an independent. I don't think that people who were Bernie supporters who voted for Trump in 2020, I think that they may go back to Bernie, but I think that he loves being kind of this progressive darling, and there would be a lot of angry progressives if Bernie ran as an independent. I mean, look at how they treated Jill Stein.
Yeah, I know.
If Bernie peels off 10%, if Bernie gets 8 to 10% of the vote,
I think that.
He may very well get that kind of response, especially if the Democrats went ahead and nominated Joe Biden, and progressives looked at that and said, well, this is unacceptable. He's not far enough to the left. He may even be able to peel more than 10% of the vote away. But that would make Trump a shoo-in. Mm-hmm. And then there would almost be a civil war within the progressive movement.
Right, but
people who would be
another
angry.
Piece of evidence to our theory that he's a fake revolutionary. If you're a real revolutionary, you would have done what I just laid out. The only reason to use the Democrat Party is because there are a couple reasons. One, because you think you can raise money through the party, which he's not doing. Right? He had the biggest fundraising haul in the fourth quarter of any candidate except for Trump. Was it $34.5 million? And that's no corporate money. This is all individual donors. And he's built this war chest off of these people. He's got people giving him reoccurring donations. They've been doing this the entire 4-year span. This is my point, is that he could have gone with that infrastructure somewhere else. Then the infrastructure argument. But he has that. He's got people that are motivated. You drive around, and I don't know what it's like in Indianapolis. The only stickers I really see are Bernie stickers. Still. I've seen one Warren sticker and a Biden sticker, and I laughed at both of them. But I see these stickers around. Well, Biden sticker, my God, it's ridiculous. If I see a Tom Steyer sticker, I might have to chase them down and say, what the hell are you doing? Getting paid. But I think he had enough grassroots support that those are the kind of people that would build their own infrastructure and open offices or run stuff out of their houses. And they're that motivated to get him elected. So what else? Why else run? The only other reason is to get on these debate stages and then to get into the main debates at, if it comes down to it, the presidential level, because the Green Party didn't get enough of a high enough percentage of the vote in 2016 to ensure that their candidate gets on the stage. But you have so much access to media anymore. Why do you need that?
Right. No, I've never understood why he has run as a Democrat, and especially after 2016. No, I agree with you. If you're going to be a revolutionary, he should have. Heck, he could have pulled a whole Ross Perot thing and started his own political party.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. And you know that AOC would have gotten right in line with that. She might have even run under his party's banner. And think about it. If he splits off now, he could take a lot of the Congress with him. And all of a sudden, overnight, they become a different party.
That's what a revolutionary would do.
Correct. This is why he's full of shit. And this is all just to get money and raise his profile. Yeah. And why do we need to see him on the debate stage? He hasn't said anything different this time around than he did. Than he's been saying for the last 40 years, and everybody thinks that's some badge of honor. It's no, he doesn't. He's incapable of coming up with new ideas.
Going back to what you said earlier about Elizabeth Warren, I just think that there's a certain percentage of the base of the Democratic Party who are so emotionally invested and the idea of having a female candidate, that they will look past every wart that she has. I mean, how many times is she going to lie and get away with it? I mean, honestly, realistically, when that whole 23andMe thing came out, I thought to myself, okay, there's no way that if progressives are being intellectually honest, that her candidacy should be done right here and there. Mm-hmm. That right then and there, it should have been done. But she survives. And it's because, Amy Klobuchar? Really? I mean, they can't support Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, my goodness. So it's Elizabeth Warren or nothing. And so it's just like, she can continue to lie, continue to bullshit, and get away with it. This whole the whole janitor thing. When your family comes out and says, okay, she's lying, people are like, eh. I mean, can you imagine if you would have found out that John Kasich's dad wasn't actually a mailman?
That would have been huge.
Good Lord.
Can you imagine if you found out that Ted Cruz's dad didn't kill Kennedy?
Oh, what a time to be alive.
It's such a stunningly stupid argument to have for an entire week. Oh my God, he said a woman can't be president. I am so personally offended. I will never vote for him. Get out of here. Grow up.
Here's the deal, knowing
that cows you. Like, you're going to go cry in the corner because a man said you can't do it. Shouldn't that just be like, well, F you, buddy, I'll show you.
Yes, but again, so much of the currency in that movement is based on victimhood. And here,
right.
If you're a United States senator, it's like, oh, I still got to show that I'm a victim. You're a freaking United States senator.
A multi-million.
Stop it. Yeah.
Well, that gets back to, so CNN updated the story throughout the week. So they say, after publication of the story, Warren herself backed up this account. Well, yeah, no shit, because she's the source of the lies. Who didn't see that coming? What a strange turn that took. So Warren backed up the account of this meeting, saying in part in a statement on Monday, quote, I thought a woman could win. He disagreed. Ooh, sick burn, Liz, sick burn. So they say that evening in 2018, and this is, of course, coming from her, I assume, and the people that she told. So it's all sourced to her. Sanders expressed frustration at what he saw as a growing focus among Democrats on identity politics.
Where have you been?
Right? He's talked about that openly on the campaign trail, and this is what you and I are talking about. So according to one of the people familiar with the conversation, okay, again, there's two people in this conversation. Oh, my God. Warren told Sanders she disagreed with his assessment. Oh, good Lord. That a woman cannot win. 3 of 4 sources said. So what did the 4th one say? Should you tell a different story to the 4th person? It's so ridiculous. So then they finally get a statement from Warren. So it says, Sanders denied the characterization of the meeting in a statement to CNN. Quote, it is ludicrous to believe that at the same meeting where Elizabeth Warren told me she was going to run for president, I would tell her that a woman could not run or could not win, Sanders said. It's sad that 3 weeks before the Iowa caucus and the year after the private conversation, staff who weren't in the room are lying about what happened. I did say that night, what I did say was that Donald Trump is a sexist, a racist, and a liar who would weaponize whatever he could. Do I believe a woman can't win in 2020? Oh, do I believe a woman can win, in 2020? Of course. After all, Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump by 3 million votes in 2016. Yeah, okay. Again, what a boring-ass dinner conversation. Can you imagine sitting there? Well, Elizabeth, you know that Donald Trump is a racist and a sexist and a liar. Yes, I know. We all know. We all say it all day on TV.
Even their feuds are boring.
I know. But the thinking behind this is her campaign this inept They thought, this is a winner. We'll take him out right now, right before Iowa, knowing that the Senate trial is going to start and the two of them are going to have to be ass in seat for the next 3 weeks, not able to go out and campaign. This was the last big gasp.
This is as bad as Kamala Harris making the theme of her campaign that Donald Trump should be banned from Twitter.
Right. I mean, it's as absurd as saying, like, somebody with glasses can't be the president. But Elizabeth, we both wear glasses. Yes, correct. Neither one of us are going to be president. It's just so stupid.
So much of this feels like when you're crafting some sort of narrative, when you're on the left, it's like the Steele dossier, where you can't just have Trump be, oh, geez, he's kind of a cad. Oh, you know what? Let's have him hiring some hookers and having them pee on Barack Obama's bed. That people will buy that at a hotel.
That's more believable than Bernie Sanders saying a woman couldn't be president.
Well, we have to craft a narrative. Liz's campaign, it needs a spark. Oh, you know what would be believable? Oh, you know, she's an underdog to begin with. We'll have Bernie, big, mean man, say, oh, Liz, while you're enjoying your beer, I got to tell you something. A woman will never be president. Yeah. Yeah, people will buy that. Yeah. A bunch of horse shit.
And they'll walk away from him and they'll never support him again. I mean, think about it, too. What's the story about Bernie Sanders' supporters? What's the archetype that they've made of them?
Where are you going with this?
Bernie bros. So it's all men supporting him anyway. So who are you picking up in this?
Yeah.
I mean, if you read what she says originally, the original reporting is that she was saying that she was going to make the two main reasons she believed that she was strong enough was that she could make a robust argument about the economy and earn broad support from female voters. So her whole thing was, I'm going to win. I can get all women in this country to vote for me, basically, is how I read this. Because I'm a woman, and women are that petty and frivolous and vapid that they'll just be like, oh, we have the same parts. I'll vote for you. What kind of horseshit is this? And so I could see him saying, well, I don't think you'll win all the female voters. Trump won a lot of women in 2016. They weren't lining up for Hillary. There's no given that they're going to line up for you. And that's a silly way to think of people. And I'm offended.
Well, I know. Yeah, I mean, let's face it. There are certain issues that are deal breakers for people, regardless of gender. One of them is abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got plenty of women who are strongly pro-life, that there's no way they could vote for Elizabeth Warren. They don't care about her lady bits. You know, it's going to be interesting to see moving forward how identity politics plays in the Democratic Party and if it will end up destroying the party. Because of this, you think it will?
Yeah, I don't see how this oppression Olympics, like, there is no winner in that game.
Well, it's all victimhood one-upsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And we need a chart and a judge to figure this all out. I mean, go back to Elizabeth Warren, and it felt like every other week there was a story. Oh, you know what? I'm Native American, and it's tough getting ahead in America as a Native American. And oh, by the way, I was an educator for a long time, and I was teaching at a school until I got pregnant, and then once I got pregnant, principal at the school did what principals did back then. They fired me because I was pregnant, because pregnant teachers everywhere in the 60s and 70s were getting fired. Everybody talks about that still to this day. It's just victimhood. And then, geez, you think you're a victim? Look at me over here in my victimhood credits. And it's just, I'm more of a victim than you. No, you're not. I'm more of a victim than you. And, boy, that's an inspiring message.
Well, she's honestly the only one still on that stage the other night that plays that game at all. I don't think Bernie doesn't play victim. Biden definitely doesn't play victim. I don't think Klobuchar really does. Tom Steyer can't possibly play victim. It's hard to be the billionaire victim. Although he was victimized at the end of that debate when he walked over. And maybe we should play the actual clip of CNN doing that stuff and then the aftermath, because the aftermath is hilarious. That clip came out the night of the debate, I guess, when she walks over to him at the end and there was no audio. So you couldn't tell what he said. So people were guessing, and then they actually put it out with the audio and you could hear her confront him. Like, did you just call me a liar on national television? Yes. Not here, not now. I'm not going to do this right now. But it was perfect. I agree with him. He's just like, they have to know that they're still mic'd up. They have to know that the cameras are still rolling.
Well, and the way to handle it, listen, I know there is the urge to try to be the adult in the room, but if I would have, and maybe, I know, looking back, he probably handled that properly, but there would be a huge part of me that would be like thinking to myself, well, you know what, now that we don't have a moderator who is trying to craft the narrative that you are telling the truth, I've got a microphone right here and I'm telling you without a moderator jumping in that that damn well didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And stop trying to paint me as a sexist when we all know the sexist who's running for president currently resides at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Create some sort of message where it's like, okay, you're not telling the truth, and try to divert the message to the sexist in this race is the president.
Right.
Not me.
Just like I told you at dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is so much fun. I just have to watch it again because I love it so much. So I'm just going to cut to the one at the end where she walks over and he's got his hand out to shake hers and she just denies it.
I think you called me a liar on national TV. I think you called me a liar on national TV.
Let's not do it right now. You want to have that discussion, we'll have that discussion. You called me. You told me. All right, let's not do it.
I don't want to get in the middle. I just want to say hi, Bernie.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Tom Steyer. I don't want to get in the middle. I just wanted to say hi, Bernie. Doesn't say hi to Warren.
How much is Tom Steyer worth?
A couple bill.
Did he really think he was going to be able to walk up to Bernie Sanders and get a positive reaction from Bernie?
Maybe. Who knows? He might throw his endorsement behind him and give him a ton of money or start a PAC or something. With, I still don't understand that purpose in all of this, except name recognition and just gigantic ego. But he keeps getting on these stages. It's bizarre.
Well, look at Bloomberg.
He didn't make the stage.
But he's and listen, I wasn't watching. Boy, there was something on the other night. Well, maybe it was the national championship football game, and I saw a few people commenting on the Bloomberg ads. It was like, oh my gosh, someone made a huge ad buy because it was some program that had the nation's attention. I think it was the college national championship game, and it was Bloomberg ad. But who's asking for Michael Bloomberg to run for anything? Who's asking for Tom Steyer to run for anything?
Political consultants.
Yeah.
That are making
You're
money
right.
off of their ad buys.
Someone needs another beach house.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw where Bloomberg announced that he wants all cars to be battery operated by 2035.
What a stupid.
15 years.
But they have no clue how the batteries are made. None.
Or how the automotive industry works.
Well, that too. But I mean, if this is under the guise of let's be environmentally friendly, that's not the environmentally friendly option, kids. It's just not. And disposing of those things is a whole other problem. But they don't think down the road. This is what we want. We want it now. It's just going to appear here. It doesn't have to get strip mined, and we're not relying on China because they've got the ingredients that we need, or some of that stuff is in Africa and South America. But guess what? While we're fighting about whether or not Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren a woman couldn't win, the Chinese are colonizing Africa and South America. Isn't that fun? And they don't give a damn about environmental regulations. So I'm waiting for Greta Thunberg to airdrop in there and start taking out the CCP. That's the way to stop this climate change, Greta.
Yeah, and the whole... Listen, I know a thing or two about the automotive industry. And that's where it's headed, unfortunately, is the battery-operated vehicles. But they make it sound like it's just like baking a cake. Hey, can you make that cake sugar-free?
Sure. Not a problem. We'll just use Diet Mountain Dew.
It's so ridiculous. Automotive manufacturers can just be like, oh, yeah, sure. You want that battery operated? Okay, yeah, we can get that done. Yeah, 15 years, no problem. All the cars will be battery operated by then. Yeah, no problem. We'll get rid of the internal combustion engine.
Nothing's around with the CAFE standards. And the impact that had on the automotive industry, and not to mention the highway fatalities.
Yeah. But that doesn't matter. Look, I contend that CAFE standards are one of the main reasons why General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler had financial problems, and one of the main reasons why General Motors and Chrysler went bankrupt is because they were forced to build a bunch of cars they're not good at building to make sure that their fleet was compliant with CAFE standards.
Yeah, can you...
General Motors right now... What's that?
Can you explain how that worked for people that aren't familiar with that whole CAFE standard thing?
CAFE standards, your automotive fleet has to come up to a certain level to be compliant with CAFE standards. So say your whole fleet may have, and I don't know the numbers, but we'll just round it up. We'll just throw a number out there. Say all of your fleet, every vehicle that you build, the average has to be, say, 25 miles per gallon. Okay? So if you are a company like General Motors, who's really good at building pickup trucks and large SUVs, you have to build vehicles that will not be as gas guzzling. So there was a time where General Motors was making something like the Chevy Cavalier, which was popular, but because of their labor costs and other things, they were losing something like $1,100 per Chevy Cavalier that they built. But they had to keep building that car to get their CAFE standards to where they would average out to meet federal regulations, because the Chevy Cavalier got 30 miles to the gallon or something like that, where a Chevy Silverado in the city may get 14 miles to the gallon. So Government regulation put them behind the 8 ball and made them build products that they weren't good building.
Well, they also made cars less safe, right? Because they had to go lighter.
Yes, and not only are they less safe because they're more and more aluminum is being put in vehicles, or they're figuring out ways to make vehicles lighter so there won't be such a burden on the engine to propel these vehicles. But they're not as structurally sound. I was talking to a farmer last week, and he talks about his old farm truck, and he's an older guy. He's getting close to 60, and he said, there was a time when you could take your girlfriend to the drive-in theater, when drive-in theaters existed, and you could get out of your truck and you could lay on the hood and watch the movie and not worry about it. But so many of these trucks today, like Ford, their F-150, which is a huge seller for them, the bed of their pickup truck is made of aluminum. You throw a toolbox in there, and the corner hits the toolbox wrong. It's going to put a hole in the bed of your pickup truck. You can't lay on the hood of a pickup truck today without damaging it, because it's either thin steel or it's aluminum. because they got to make them lighter because they're trying to they're keeping up with the other auto manufacturers who are more interested in fuel economy, but also government regulation. So it's a bunch of bureaucrats who don't know how to build a vehicle, who aren't in the automotive industry, who are making rules. Just like, oh, yeah, you can do that. You should do that. Mm-hmm. And auto manufacturers are like, well, okay, well, I'm losing money abiding by your rules. My product is less safe. And it's maddening. And now you've got a major presidential candidate saying, oh, yeah, all vehicles should be battery operated by 2035. Okay.
What do you think the reaction when one of these guys came out and they said, the pro-universal healthcare types said by 2030, the average weight of men in this country will be 200 pounds and the average weight of women in this country will be 130 pounds. And we're going to enforce that. People will go ballistic, right?
Yeah, right.
How are you going to do that? But this is what they do to industry and just say, yeah, figure it out.
Well, think about government and what they do. Let's use government as an example. Let's say that someone running for president would say, by the year 2024, we're going to have a budget freeze. The federal government's budget will not increase for 5 years. Can you imagine the freak out? They would go ballistic. Oh, that's ridiculous. We can't freeze the budget? Spend the same next year as we do this year? That's insane. Well, this is what they do. They just go to industries and say, oh, you know what? You're doing it wrong. I know nothing about your industry, but I'm going to regulate it. I mean, I've got a picture of me at CPAC from 2013, and I'm standing next to a stack of papers that represented what Obamacare would look like if it were printed out.
I remember that.
And it was like 8.5 feet tall.
Yeah. Like, nobody read this. Nobody knows what the hell's going on.
And you're not thinking, as an average person, you can't think to yourself, okay, if there's 8.5 feet of legislation standing there, that's not going to affect costs? You have to hire people to make sure you're compliant with that 8.5 foot tall piece of legislation. You don't think that's going to drive prices up?
No. Why would it? I think I might have shared this with you, but I don't know if I remember. I was on a flight recently, and the woman sitting next to me and I started chatting. And it turns out she's a consultant that helps pharmaceutical companies with IT and other stuff, I think is what it was. But we were, we got to chatting, and somehow it came up that they have this pharma company she was working for, and she didn't tell me who it was. They have a 200-person compliance department. Just in this one regional office. And I think this is insane. And people bitch about, oh my God, stuff is so expensive. Well, how do you think those people's jobs are getting paid for? They don't work for free to make sure they're complying with all the rules that the government geniuses have made up. 200 people on the payroll? You got to think, and what are they? I would imagine you're making at least 60 or 70 in that position, if not more. Then you've got their benefits on top of it. I mean, this is a huge expense. But no, it's totally necessary because the government says so, and you must comply with them, or they'll come take everything away from you.
Well, and cars are more expensive now, and people want to blame it on stuff, like labor costs. But again, government regulation. It's required that all new cameras now have to have, or all new cars have to have backup cameras. Mm-hmm. That's
not cheap technology. No, and I think it's kind of dangerous. Now cars, I was just in I think it was a 2020 vehicle that has one. But if you're not still checking over your shoulder and just relying on that thing, You could take somebody out very easily that's walking that you don't see. But now some of the newer cars will actually slam on the brakes for you. But is it really that difficult to turn around? Or I don't know, maybe, the side mirrors and the rear view that you have, those seem to have worked for 60, 70 years.
And that technology doesn't fail.
No, unless you break a mirror. I didn't. Right? Did you have driver's ed in school?
Yes.
I did not.
Wait a minute. How'd you get your driver's permit?
What do you mean? I went and took
your learner's permit.
You go and you take a test, written test, and then they give you your permit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I had to sit through classwork.
Permit. Mm-mm.
Well, my daughter went through recently, and she had to go through, I think it was 20 or 40 hours of classwork.
Really?
She did online and then had to pass a test.
Wow, Indiana's character laws in Pennsylvania, they were just like, no, I took a 26-question test, I think.
Oh, and in Indiana, you get your driver's license, and it's restricted for, I believe, 6 months, where you can't drive with anyone else in the car other than family members.
I know Pennsylvania, I think it's the first year you get what's called a Cinderella license. So you have to be you have to be off the road by a certain time. And I can't remember if it's 11 o'clock at night, but you were allowed to have other people in your car. There was no limit on that.
Oh, times have changed. And kids are so much different, too. My daughter doesn't care when she gets her license. Man, I don't know about you, but I was chomping I was 16 years old. It's like, I got to get down to get my license. This has got to happen now.
See, we couldn't get permits until we were 16, I think.
Oh, wow. No, I got a permit when I was 15.
No, I can't even remember. Maybe that's how it was. It was permit, and then you could get your license at 16. I don't even remember, but it was pretty simple. But there was no driver's ed, so nobody had to sit through that. I took a class just because it would get me a discount on insurance rates. And my parents were like, hey, insurance on a 16-year-old is pretty expensive. We want you to go take this class. I think it was AAA did it or something. So I went to that for an insurance break. But nobody I guess people that don't use their mirrors then don't teach their children how to use mirrors, and it just progresses down the line. Yeah. Yams. What other kind of crazy stuff is now required? It's airbags everywhere, right?
Airbags everywhere. It's what people are expecting now too.
Yeah.
It's so uncommon now to see a window crank. You know?
Oh, yeah. I bet your kids have never seen one.
I did sell. I had a 2006, I think, Chevy Aveo that I ended up selling to this dad. He was buying it for a 16-year-old kid, and he looks at her and says, "Do you like it?" And you're 16, you want a car, you pretty much love anything.
Sure.
And so we're going through open the door, and I got the cheapest commuter model possible, so I didn't care about power seats or power windows. She pointed at the window crank and said, "What's that?" The dad and we both started laughing, and I said, "Well, you take the window. This is how you lower the window." And she's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!"
It's so retro.
Yeah, retro. Yeah. So
people buy those the hammer thing to keep in your car in case you get trapped in there if the electronics fail.
Right.
That'll work pretty well. Super reliable.
Oh, that always cracked me up too, but that's just because I live in the Midwest, and there's I lived in Michigan at one point, but I'm not surrounded by very many bodies of water to where you have to be worried about possibly driving into a pond and having to break your window. Got to keep that hammer in just in case. Like, wow, that's definitely being a Boy Scout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, around here there's a lot of water, a lot of bridges, and so it kind of makes sense, I suppose. Just in case, would you feel like a jerk if you went off the side of the road and you're like, shit? Did we learn nothing from Teddy Kennedy?
I was going to say they call it the Ted Kennedy model.
Yeah.
Well, we're an hour in, Tracy. You got anything else?
I know there's so much that we had to talk about that we didn't get to. I guess we could save it for next week, or maybe that'll all be off the table because impeachment purgatory is finally over. And we're going to see the fireworks begin next week.
Can't wait for that.
Oh, it's going to be thrilling.
Did you see all the funny videos that people made? They took the footage of the House walking over the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and they put a bunch of people had fun with that video.
No, I got to find those.
Oh, some of them they sped it up slightly, and they put the Benny Hill music behind them as they were walking. Or the death march from music from Star Wars, and yeah, if you get an opportunity, you got to check that out.
Oh, I love it. Now, was that happened on Thursday, right? And LSU was at the White House on Friday, was it?
Yes.
Okay, so Thursday was juxtaposed with Trump signing the deal with China and the USMCA. The dangerous president that we need to get rid of immediately just signs 2 monumental trade deals that they all voted for. Well,
and of course, people have commented on this, and I don't know how much you want to get into it, but I mean, Nancy Pelosi, in this very somber occasion, signing the articles of impeachment and using 30 different commemorative pens, and the pens were being brought over on a silver platter. Just awful, somber event that it looked like a celebration.
Wow, that's to be expected. But you reminded me of my favorite clip of the whole week, and I'm probably being overshadowed by the snowplows going by, scraping. Can you hear all that in the background here?
No.
Oh, good. Well, this was my favorite. This was the day of impeachment, I suppose, and she's out there yammering about how this is sending a message to Putin and Trump. And so she sounds drunk again, that's my favorite Pelosi, is like, mimosa Pelosi. So I think it's right about here. I won't make you listen to the whole thing.
Voters in America should decide who our
Yes, voters in America should decide who our president is. Well, they did, lady, and you didn't accept
president
it.
Is.
Here you go.
Not Vladimir Putin.
Did you catch that, Fingers?
Plutin.
Flopper. Here, I'll do it again.
Putin. And Russia president is not Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin.
Listen, I want to ask Speaker Jen Gimlet a question. And it's this: was Vladimir Putin responsible for the Democrats taking over the House? Was he involved in that, or is it just the presidential election where Vladimir Putin gets involved?
Just presidential. He doesn't care.
How does that work?
Doesn't care about the House.
Okay. Of course not.
She's such a disaster.
That's fine. She is a disaster. But I'm losing light, so I'm afraid we're going to have to call it quits, Tracy.
And I'm just getting more and more orange over here. That's my solidarity with the president.
You can catch the Enough Already podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you're an Android person, you listen to TuneIn. There's several places you can go. Stitcher, SoundCloud, where all fine podcasts are sold, and you can watch us and all of our great lighting over on YouTube and BitChute. Tracy, final thoughts?
Oh, I'm ready for impeachment to begin, Fingers. Hopefully it'll carry over. Is there February sweeps?
We'll have to ask our Hollywood friends about that. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I am going to the Indianapolis Home Show. And let me tell you, I know I am incredibly old because I'm so excited. I'm as excited about going to a home show as any concert I've attended in the last 20 years. That's how old I am.
Show?
Oh, the Indianapolis Home Show. It's at the convention center. It's at the fairgrounds in their convention center, and it's all home improvement stuff. And it's so huge. They build every year a full size house at the Indianapolis Home Show. It's only 10 days long. I think they've got a 2,600 square foot ranch they built It's just, I mean,
Pretty
completely furnished. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they don't run the plumbing, but they got the lighting. It's all decorated, the whole 9 yards. They got the backyard with like a spa and everything, and then they got a whole bunch of home improvement, like windows and furnishing, everything you could imagine for home improvement. They've got it at the home show, and they also have liquor.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so I like to go, and I'll probably take an Uber, and I'll go there,
And then when
my
you get,
drink
you get
on.
a rascal and just
Yeah,
say F.
yeah, right.
I'm going to be that guy.
So I'm just going to walk around, get my drink on, and look at a whole bunch of home improvement projects that I'm never going to do. And I'm very excited.
That's fun. And you just reminded me that I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get one of these out next week because I'm going to New Orleans for a different kind of trade show.
Oh, get out.
Yeah. I will be in NOLA starting on the 24th, and I don't get back until like the 29th.
Oh, enjoy that. Go through one of those drive-through daiquiri places that they have down.
No, I won't have a car, so I guess I can get the Uber driver. But I've already been there and done that.
Oh. Man.
So it's not my first rodeo in New Orleans. But if anybody's down there and wants to go out and walk around with open containers, that's my favorite thing in the world.
Well, there you go. Hit Tracy up on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. If you're in New Orleans, you can party with her. All right. Well, she's got to go. I got to go. We'll be back soon with an all new Enough Already.